so here you are with this incredible, awesome instrument known as a physical body that is immortal, that can be on this planet for, some authors are already stating that a person who has been educated properly, has been nurtured with good nutrition, an individual who understands the brain and learns how to operate it and all of its software, can maintain their one physical body for 100,000 years. This is in writing. 100,000 years your body can last. And so if you want proof of that, you can get busy and go read the Immortal Cells of Henrietta Lacks. So in the 50s, this woman's tissue was taken and without her permission was grown in a tissue culture, which at that time, that was a new concept. Can we grow a living cell of mammalian tissue and especially human tissue in tissue culture? And they did this and found out that these cells basically grew very well. And they started sending them out to other labs, and then other labs start investigating and doing their own research with it, et cetera, till now today, Henrietta Lacks' cells, known by the abbreviation of her name, HeLa cells, H-E-L-A, the first two initials of the first and last name, is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Ms. Lacks has been dead since the early 1950s, and her cells are thriving. Now you have to understand, this is something very profound about the quality of tissue that this instrument, known as the physical body, is made out of, that the mind of the individual can be separated from its own tissues, and in such a unique environment, so totally different than that of the human body, that they can live in a tissue culture and live in a tissue culture for decades, for scores of years. You have to really contemplate what is that really saying about this instrument that you navigate as an energy, as a conscious energy known as your physical body. And why would those cells adapt so readily to living in literally a petri dish, a tissue culture, but yet and still the remaining cells that stayed attached to her body have all died? That's amazing. Why these cells literally were stolen and put into such a simple, sterile environment, just carrying the basic nutrients for life: carbohydrates, fat, and protein, and water. And those cells are thriving. But yet and still, the Henrietta Lacks body, as we know it, has perished scores ago. It immediately strikes you that obviously the tissue of the human body has incredible, awesome capabilities and characteristics that most people still do not comprehend, nor do they understand how to utilize. So therefore, we are easily able to begin to comprehend that dis-ease and death is a dysfunction. It is the result of an individual who did not understand and comprehend how to navigate and to utilize and care for a vehicle, a tool, such as a physical body that has indestructible capabilities. Now, how do we know it's indestructible? Well, we have the HeLa cells, but now look at transplant science. We can take the tissues from an individual that's dead, and by keeping those tissues in just simple conditions, the same conditions that keep the HeLa cells alive, those tissues can then be placed into an environment that is unhealthy. And they will kick in to normal functioning and literally be able to reestablish healthy functionality in the individual who initially destroyed their own organs. Now, you just contemplate that. See, people are too busy doing a lot of frivolous stuff instead of sitting there thinking about their innate greatness that you can destroy with your carelessness and your ignorance, your own tissue, and if you ask for and acquire a replacement from a dead person, it will literally work in your sick body to the extent that it will renew your functionality. Now, just right there, if you stop and contemplate that, what are you dealing with here? What are you dealing with? And the individuals on this planet of the human species are so ungrateful and have such pathological conditions that the discussion and the contemplation that I just posed to you probably never happens in the minds of 1 out of every billion humans. So, I mean, that is a revolutionary contemplation that when you sit down and really look at that and think about it and dissect it, you get up from that bed or that chair totally a different person. So, therefore, we have to then recognize how are we allowing an environment to take us to such an extent away from this incredible, noble, divine capability of an instrument that we have, and we're squabbling over all kinds of things. It doesn't even make sense. It's amazing. The things that I see projected on the TV that people are allowing their attention to be totally focused upon is incredible. And they yet and still don't really even know how to wash their face, wash their hands, brush their teeth. How do we actually activate this incredible instrument in the morning? How do we literally feed it and care for it through the day? How do we then put it to bed at night? You could not get an intelligent thesis and dissertation from most of these people on their own body, the proper care. That's amazing that something this incredible that it would not promote you to investigate how do I care for something that's this incredible. And it's okay, a word by word of mouth and whatever else, et cetera. I am astounded at the people who come to me who give me a history of very intense and chronic symptoms of imbalance and dysfunction in their body. And they really are convinced that that kind of information should just be imparted to them, just like they're asking me for directions to get to the grocery store or to get to some public facility. And that being able to have access to that information, what I call off the cuff, is supposed to be, in their minds, thorough enough and significant enough that they would go and apply that to this incredible instrument. And I'm like, now that is amazing. But yet and still, you want to have all the latest data and research on the functionality of your automobile before you buy it, or your house, or a whole bunch of other stuff. But the food you eat and the care for your body, oh, we can talk about that, and I don't even have to know anything about it, et cetera. Just, tell me what should I do for this headache or this foot or whatever else, et cetera. Oh, really? Okay, good. I'll try that. But now we have to have a checklist for our automobile.
Sure.
Okay, or a whole bunch of other things. I mean, it's amazing. And I was like, wow, the lack of, this is one of the most serious diseases I have ever seen. the lack of appreciation for ourselves.
Yes.
And when you recognize that you have a society that does not appreciate life, it's okay for us to put poison in each other's food. It's okay for the air to be poisoned. It's okay for me to basically throw trash and garbage down on the street and leave it. It's like, where can you go from there except to continuously disintegrate?
Mm-hmm.
And then everybody's wondering, why are we disintegrating? And they want to blame the government and whatever else. And I'm like, I just saw you walk over 4 or 5 pieces of paper. You never, ever at all been over and picked it up. 2 pieces stuck onto your shoe. And you continue to walk with it, and then when it ignores you, you pulled it down and threw it down on the street and kept on going. And I'm like, well, that's very interesting because they don't even recognize the law of order and geometry. And with something like that being in your path, it always creates a chaotic energy. It always alters your frequency. And now the energy vector that you were creating relative to what it is your intent was as to why you had your body in motion has totally been now reorganized and reprogrammed on the Earth grid. Every place on Earth has an energy frequency, and your intent lines up with the frequency. And when you understand that, then you can get onto the grid, and the Earth energies literally act like a magnet and will literally usher you there. So when there's debris in your way, which represented chaotic energy, because obviously there's a place where that should have been contained, where it would have been recycled and reprogrammed to have a neutral or a compatible frequency again, to walk over that immediately deprograms everything. So the simple example of that would be to take a magnet and stick it near your CD or your DVD and then try to play it, okay? And it's like the information is erased. It's altered. It's scrambled. So from that point on, unless you can download it or whatever, the DVD and everything, all the information, because it came in contact with an aberrant field. But see, why don't each and every one of us know this? Why is this just not a standard in our household, on the street, etc.? Because we know that that is going to totally deprogram what it is that we're about as we move around on the planet. And why should we waste energy and have to be moved into an artificial state of chaos to try to recover from this? So you have to understand that, you know, this kind of information is fascinating. And for that kind of information to be withheld from you is amazing. But it can only be withheld from you because you are not interested in knowing it. See, this is what's so great, because everybody wants to say, well, our educational system doesn't do it. But you have a master library that no one can touch. It is literally the library of planet Earth. There's nothing that has ever happened on this planet that is not encoded energetically in the energy sphere of this planet. It's called the Psi Bank.
Yes.
And you can ask any question you want, and the information will come from the Psi Bank. Now, most people, they do get the answer to their question, but then they ignore it because it doesn't come from the venues that they are programmed to accept as resource banks of information. So you have to understand that, you know, not even knowing how your environment is structured makes it very difficult for you to navigate. Because if somebody is saying that you can only get reliable information from A, B, and C resources, then all the downloads that would come to you from the Psi Bank and these other energetic information resources, you will reject. Now, that again says a lot about not understanding how the brain works. So it just is, you know, I've been studying this for years, and it's just a multi-layered experience that we're having here on Earth.